Okay, we're on. I'm Richard, and this is our little community of friends online, and we meet regularly, and we are recording this meeting, obviously, and are going to introduce ourselves and share a bit about what the Headless Way, how it affects us, or something like that, maybe do an experiment or something. So I'm Richard, I'm in London. I love coming along to these meetings to hang out with friends who are aware of this open space and find out how people are benefiting from it, really. And if you haven't done any of the experiments before, I'm talking to the viewer, well, we'll share something with you, I'm sure. So we haven't really planned this. We're going to introduce ourselves, I think. So who would like to say hi and introduce themselves in terms of the Headless Way, I suppose, or something? Jump in. Christine.
Okay, so I'm Christine, and I live in Maui, and it's been really helpful to discover this group and to share in the seeing with other seers. What I love about this group is that it's non-hierarchical, and everyone is like equal. There's no levels to obtain. People see equally. It's something we all share, and it can't be half obtained. It's like you either see or maybe perhaps some people are not aware that they're seeing, but we're always seeing. We're always open. We're always this capacity and awareness. And there's many words for it, but the experience is the same. There are many words for it, but the experience is the same for everyone. I guess the only difference is that being aware of the looker, like being aware of that which is looking, it's really, really beneficial. So I'll pass it on.
Thank you, Christine. Who's next? Jump in.
Hi, I'm Bill. I'm from Hawaii, Maui also. And for me, lately, the most important thing about headlessness has been the sense that I'm at home in the world. I can be at home in the world. I should be at home in the world. It's where I want to be. Home is where I want to be, like in the Coldplay song. And looking to see who I am gives me a sense of I belong here. And I'm not this separate, lost, alienated person that I assumed I was growing up. And it's a wonderful feeling of this is the direction my life should be. This is what my true identity is. And it all starts with very simple perception experiences, experiments of pointing to my real nature, of seeing that I'm only looking out of one big single eye, of when I drive, I notice that the scenery goes through me. I don't go through the scenery. Many simple experiments like that can lead to a wonderful outcome. And so I'm happy to be here with this group and happy to be exploring the way forward with other people in the same frame of mind. And welcome to any newcomers who haven't experienced in the Headless Way before. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Judy, were you next? Did you wave your hand?
Yeah, I did. I'm Judy. I'm in South Wales, in UK. I haven't been coming to this particular group for long. I usually join in the Australian group which is quite different from this one. And it's interesting, they're both lovely. But it's great to get to know you people in the States, because I think it makes so much difference to have friends to talk about this with, because I find that in my everyday life, I don't have friends like that. Only a very few. And it's so supportive and encouraging to be able to sit and talk about something which most people consider wacky and way out. And I met Douglas a very long time ago, and it's been part of my life ever since. Though, unlike Richard, who's the most extraordinary person, I think, for sticking to one point, I go off in all sorts of directions and then have to find my way back. But I loved what you just said about home, Bill, because, yeah, that's what it feels like, being at home and being safe. Yeah, that's all for now.
Great. Thank you, Judy. Who's next?
My name is Tom. I live in the Philadelphia area. My connection may be unstable, so let me know if it's not coming through. I encountered Douglas Harding writings maybe 8 years ago, and this community maybe 5 years ago, and it's changed my life. It's what I particularly value, I think, is just the tool that's been provided, the simple tool of looking to where my head ought to be, and instead finding this view out and the world. And that is something that I, again, has changed my life, and that I can come back to over and over. And it has always ring true for these years as this is who I really am, this emptiness, this space, this capacity for the world. So that's a little of my story. Welcome to everyone.
Thank you, Tom. Who's next? If you don't jump in,
yes.
Go for it.
Okay, I'm Ellis, and I'm from Oregon. Usually, I'm in New Jersey right now, and I've been coming to these hangouts for about a year. I'm not on video right now because I'm on my phone, so we can be video. We can have a head in a square or just a voice coming out of a square. Let's see, what does it mean to me right now? The magical nature of discovering headlessness, the synchronicity seems when I have something I'm concerned about or thinking about, I don't know, it seems like somebody in these meetings talks about it. and I'm just so enjoying that aspect of it. It's changed my life, just in ways that other people have already said. So that's me.
Thank you, Alice.
Hello, my name is Ilka, and I live in Germany in the town of Braunschweig. And I've been coming to these meetings for about 3 years, and came across the Headless Way on the internet, as it was a big surprise. It changed my life, and I also agree to everything the others said. And for me, a special thing of the headlessness is that I'm always amazed that everything is in me, and I'm also amazed about the paradox that everything is also in my friends that I meet in these hangouts. So that is something that really triggers my curiosity, and when I'm experiencing that, new insights and new questions always come up. So I find that very curious. Thank you, and welcome to everybody, because this is an open group, and yeah, I think it's just like everybody who'd like to join us can just drop in, make contact with Richard and come in.
Anyone else want to introduce yourself?
Okay. Yes, I'll introduce myself. I'm Jeff from the United States, Los Angeles, Cal, and I've been doing the Headless Way for a while now, and I would recommend it to anybody to try it out, because as has been mentioned previously, it's more of an experiential thing than it is some sort of tenets or belief system. It's something that you can experience, just like you can experience a green shake. It's very similar. I would almost compare it to a green smoothie, the Headless Way, because it's something you can actually taste, and it's good for you. So, welcome to everyone.
So, Jeff, the Headless Way is seeing where you put the green smoothie.
Well, as Christine would say, or what she would hint at, I am the green smoothie.
Okay.
Oh, wait, one more thing, since I'm assuming this is like a normal meeting. So to bring up the conversation that we were talking about, the other day I was in the gym, okay, and so I had this negative thought, and you know how sometimes negative thoughts keep flowing in your mind, and you go, oh no, it's a negative thought, what do I do? And then you just kind of go, okay, well, I'll do nothing, and then you hope it goes away. So anyways, what I noticed was something that was mentioned in the last meeting is also, I think, quite accurate, that you also could have a really positive thing, like you're thinking of the future, and you go, oh, I'm going to go to, San Diego or something like that, and you're looking forward to it. But that also is kind of a trap, because in both instances, the negative or the anticipation takes you out of the moment. So I think that that's a very important discussion. And so Headless Way makes you think of the moment.
Okay, great.
So there we go.
We thank you, Jeffrey. I'm sure we may come back to that. Peter, were you going to speak?
Yes, thank you. So, yeah, basically, my name is Peter. I'm from Belgium, near Brussels. And what am I doing here? Experiencing a lot. Let's say, before a few months ago, I was more or less like everybody else, or a lot of people, looking, searching, growing, trying to evolve, trying to find answers, big questions, small questions, trying to cope with myself, and so on. And by accident or by coincidence, I got in touch with the experience of Douglas Harding, and I would really advise everybody to try them, because for me, I can only speak for myself, it just opened all doors. So searching in itself of who I am, or basically I'm not searching anymore. It's like someone said already, coming home, having this deep sensation of or feeling of it's all okay, huh? And on the other hand, there's this eagerness, this energy, this life energy, whatever you call it, to try to use this, implement this, live by it, live with it. And there's a lot of things that are non-verbal, but a lot of things are really seen in a way of speaking. So, and you cannot deny them, but it's difficult to describe. So it's a big adventure, and coming here helped me a lot, because in the beginning it was like, yeah, for me it was really a wow, a very deep wow experience, and it still is. And so I really need some help in ordering things for myself, putting things in a structure, more or less, trying to understand. And these gatherings really help me being critical about it, being every time asking questions, seeing, at some moment you think, now I've got it, and then you hear some other point of view or other experience, and then it broadens your experience every day. So I'm not the same person anymore. I feel much better, happier, a lot of joy and peace, especially. My deepest wish is to grow into this more and more. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. So anyone else speak up now or forever hold your peace? Yeah. Michael, great.
Hi, I'm Michael. I'm from Berlin. I'm here for some months now, and I enjoy it very much. I read a book of Douglas Harding in the 80s, a long time ago, and I didn't get it. Some months ago, my mother died suddenly, surprisingly in the morning, and in the afternoon I read by accident a text of Douglas Harding, and I'm very grateful for that. It helped me to cope with the situation, and from then on I'm here. And I'm working as an Alexander Technique teacher here in Berlin, doing other things, but I'm a teacher for the Alexander Technique. And what I realize now is that I was in this state of headlessness many, many times for long periods of times when I did Alexander Technique. I didn't call it headlessness, but I called it my Alexander Technique feeling. And when I studied in Hamburg, I was working as a taxi driver and was for long periods of time in the state of headlessness that I saw my arms, and I saw the wheel, and I saw the world floating through me. But now it becomes still easier. It becomes still easier through the experiments, and it's deepening. And I like it very much to be here and to meet friends from all over the world and talk about this. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Michael. Okay. So one of us could just do a simple experiment just to articulate the actual experience we're all talking about. Would someone like to take us through an experiment to bring our attention to the place we're looking out of? Okay, Christine.
Okay, so let's do the pointing exercise. So we're going to do an experiment or more than one, and the important thing is to just see what is, and to let go of ideas and let go of preconceived notions or memories, and just see for yourself. and just recognize what's happening right now. So pick an object, perhaps across the room or quite a ways from you, and point to it. So you're going to take your finger and you're going to point to an object, and you notice that it is an object. It's got a shape, it's got a color, it's got a size and texture, and it's, you know, got a depth. And it's also, as an object, it will decompose one day. It's something that's always changing. And now pick a different object and point to that different object, and notice it's got a color and a shape and a size. And notice that your finger is a thing and it's pointing at a thing. And now you're going to point perhaps either to your knee or your foot. So whatever's more convenient, you notice that it's got a shape and a size and a color. It's a thing. Eventually it will decompose. It's always changing. And your finger's a thing and it's pointing at a thing. And so now you're going to lift your hand or finger, and you're going to point towards your chest, either your tummy or your chest. And you can notice that your finger's a thing and it's pointing at a thing, and it's got a color and a shape, and it kind of moves as you breathe. And now you're going to point to where you're looking from. So point at where you're looking from. And what I'm noticing is that I don't see anything. There's no thing where I'm pointing at. It's open. It's completely open. And it is spacious, and it contains everything that, you know, it's like there's no boundary between this open space, and so there's nothing, and it contains everything. And you can take your other hand and you can point like out, sort of inward and outward at the same time, and notice that you're pointing at no thing, like nothing, and everything. You're pointing toward emptiness and fullness. And there's no separation between these two. You can put your hands down. And if someone else wants to carry on.
Thank you, Christine. So
I would like to have my hands vanish in that thing that I'm looking out of. And when we look at our hands, we can again see that they're objects. And they are objects that we see from the space where we are looking from, of course. We could point back and see, oh yes, this is the space where I'm looking from, where my fingers point at now. And we can do another thing with these fingers. We can not only point, but we can kind of make them vanish in this open space that is here by just putting our hands behind our heads. And now our fingers are gone, our hands are gone. We can only see them on the screen, but we can not see them because in this space here, it is open, and even if it contains everything, even I can feel that I have hands, but I can no longer see them. It is just the open space that is open for everything, and it is open for all the things that I can perceive, my room, my hands, everything that I can perceive. And when I want to find back this open space that I'm looking from, I can point at it, but I can also just experience it by making my hands accommodating or locating my hands there.
Thank you, Ilka. So what we're doing with these very simple experiments is guiding our attention to this open space. And obviously, if you're watching this, no good just watching us do it. You need to do it yourself if you really want the experience.
And I carry on with that same one, with the hands, because if we point to where we're looking from, all of us, again, and with our two, as Christine did, with our two-way looking, pointing in the other direction, and then I'm just putting one hand down and I'm pointing at Judy on the screen and pointing at all the other people on the screen. And the contrast is so obvious that there is Judy's face. It's not here. It's not here. It's there amongst all of you, amongst all the friends who are on the screen. And that's me in my human aspect, as you might say. And this is my real experience of being me, being this openness. And there I'm shut up in a little box with two eyes, and here one huge eye, and not shut up in a box. And I think Christine mentioned that, that this body will eventually disintegrate, in my case not too long ahead, I guess. And what about this spaciousness? How can that disintegrate? Because it's no thing anyway. What I really am.
And of course,
yeah, Tom.
Of course, to experience way requires one to abandon, at least for the moment, one's usual preconceptions about how the world works. So you have to abandon the notion that, well, my head was here, it disappears because it's behind my head and I can't see it. So these experiments, a premise of them is that, at least for the moment, put aside everything you know, all preconceptions and prior conditioning as to how the world works.
On present evidence.
On present evidence.
The other thing is that I think that what headlessness is revealing is what all the world's major religions is pointing to. Like in Buddhism, they talk about emptiness and no self. And so headlessness is fantastic for pointing toward emptiness, which is capacity for everything. Because even in Buddhism, emptiness doesn't mean like empty in the traditional way of looking at it. It's emptiness and fullness are kind of all contained. And the no self. And so having no head, you also recognize that you're not this body, that you are no self, and it's no ego, no body, no person. And so that's addressed with headlessness. And also even Christianity, the kingdom of God is within. When you open your arms up wide and you see that everything is contained within. It's like that picture of the wide open arms, even in Rio de Janeiro, the Christ the Redeemer statue. It's like the kingdom of God is within. It's like another way of looking at that. And every religion, even Sufism, or it's all pointing to the same thing.
This is a very simple modern way, isn't it? Experiment. We look. We don't believe. We don't take on trust. We don't go to the scriptures first of all. We go to our direct experience. Have a look at the place you're looking out of. Can you see your own face? I can't. What do I see instead? The world. And in my view, this is a non-verbal experience, and you can't get it wrong. You can't see ahead. But how you react to it is individual. And so I think it's a blessing to recognize it's non-verbal, because then we don't get hung up on what the right way of describing it is or the right way of reacting to it. Everyone's reaction to this open, neutral capacity full of everything is different. And that's why it's so wonderful to hang out together and discover what each other's unique reaction to this basic experience is. Yeah.
Another very simple, concrete way of demonstrating that is to do a variation of the pointing experiment, where with one hand you point back at what you're looking out of, and with the other hand you point at your picture on the screen, the picture that has your name on it, and ask yourself, which side are you on? Are you living from? Which side is home? For me, the right hand is pointing back to where my home is, to where I'm coming from, to where I'm living from. And the other hand is pointing towards a person in the world, a person out there, but I'm not living from there. I'm living from where I'm looking out of. There's a big difference, and yet they are very much the same too.
To take to go on from that, Bill, I mean, seeing that my face is there in the crowd and not here means that now I have, 8 faces or something, or 10 faces in my open space. And I find it just a fantastic thing in my life that when I'm with others, to see it's face to no face. I'm not separate behind a surface here. I'm built open for everyone, whether I like them or not. And this is a different way of living, to see that you're faceless with others, face to no face. I wonder what others' experience of that is in terms of being with others. Being with you, all of you now, is I'm looking from this open space. I am you. It's just wonderful.
I have the benefit of 13 or 14 people, different minds, not just one.
You multiply.
Yeah.
It's interesting how it can be applied, because the application of it is really beneficial. Like in the classroom, to recognize that I am my students, it allows me to really to have more compassion and kindness, and to be more open to their experience instead of being this head at the front of the classroom. Like when I have no head, I'm really open and flowing. Like artists and athletes talk about being in the flow, and that's really related to headlessness. I think it can be very freeing to not have to put on that mask of the ego. And the other thing is that sometimes people say, yeah, but I can see my head in the mirror, or I can feel it. And so the thing to realize is that what you see in the mirror is an appearance. That's not who you really are. That's just your appearance. And looking at the screen, I see that I have an appearance in the screen and many other appearances, but that's not who I really, really am. And so what's beautiful is to just like looking at a night sky with all the stars, just going like, okay, I see my star face. That's who I really am. And, you know, there's different levels of who you are. For example, when I'm talking about my town, I can be a town. I can be, you know, I could say I miss my home. I miss my island. I miss, you know, like I can, when you're at different levels away, there's a perception of who you are. For example, at a distance, you might look like a body that's far away, but you can also, there are different levels of, I don't know, someone else can explain.
There's the model. You're muted, Ilka, so yeah.
Sorry, thank you. This is the body level. That is how others see you and how I am now seeing my friends. And then I have another level. This is probably, might perhaps be my town, Braunschweig. It is not Braunschweig, but it is who I am as a larger object. And I'm also the planet Earth. And I'm also our solar system. And I'm also the galaxy. But this is how I look from other galaxies' viewpoint. As now, among our human level, I look like a human. And if someone would see me from that far away, he or she would perceive me as a galaxy, or as a solar system, or as the planet Earth. And when I come even closer, I am a cell, or I'm atoms and molecules. And right at center, at this center here, there's the clear space that I really am. So this is just a model. Of course, it is an appearance, and it is not who I am, but it is a story about how I can think about myself when I've discovered that for real, I'm this, that is the open space for everything.
Thank you.
One footnote to that demonstration I might add is that whatever I see out there is an appearance, and it's not permanent. It doesn't last. It's always changing. Certainly what I see in the mirror is always changing, to my surprise, and doesn't last. But even the galaxy at some point will vanish and change. And the only thing that doesn't change in my experience is what I'm pointing at in this direction. This never changes. It never begins. It never ends. It's always there. It's the only thing I can rely on.
Let me say that Christine had to go because her daughter is sick.
Christine had to go, yeah.
Her daughter is sick.
Her daughter, yeah.
I would say that this last year, the biggest difference in relationship with other people for me, this sounds kind of strange, but I feel I don't have to try to understand everything. So I don't see seeing as a way of understanding. I don't know if this makes any sense, but, you know, figuring things out, figuring the other person out, figuring me out, figuring me with the other person out. Somehow I've just let go of that in this seeing. And this is a really freeing thing. I mean, it's not that understanding doesn't have its place, but it's just the weirdest thing. From seeing, I see that I don't see. I don't. That's all I can say. Yeah, that it's a limited view. It's a limited view, obviously. Anyhow, a limited view from a very it's the difference between being and seeing, I guess. Yeah, being and seeing.
I love that, Alice, and feel something similar. That seeing for me is this non-verbal experience, which isn't about understanding. I love all the understanding and everything, but essentially it's not about understanding or thinking or feeling. It's just this non-verbal being, but it's so fulfilling and restful and inclusive.
I think the inclusiveness comes from the experiment we did right before this hour, when you had our two hands, and then you had one hand, the one representing acceptance, open, the other one resistance, closed. Then you had joining the two, and suddenly I thought friendship. That's what friendship is. And we often just want to accept, but that's just part. There's resist, accept, and then we could use a different word then for the void or the space, because it's an acceptance without feelings attached, almost without meaning attached, which anyhow, that's what I got from that experience. But there was friendship in it, and a different kind of friendship of that dark and light, that I would say. I don't know.
Well, maybe I could just quickly take us through that, just so that someone
Could I do it, Richard?
Yes,
yeah.
Please, yes.
And then you can add any bits.
Mm-hmm.
We were having got into the area of what happens when we feel we can't accept the way in which our little selves, that is my Judy self, does things, or some things that we just don't like. And Richard suggested that we take our two hands like this, and we have one closed up like a fist. Everybody'd like to do that. One's like a fist, and the other hand is open. And so that's symbolizing the fist is resistance to whatever is happening, including the feelings and thoughts that come up in our minds or in our lives, our own feelings and thoughts as human beings. And this hand is symbolizing being open for all of that, the point of the experiment was to notice this being the space which includes both of those, and it's not a case of having this one sort of here as a permanent state. At the human level, it's being aware that sometimes resistance happens, things we don't like happen, and sometimes acceptance is happening. And we're capacity for both of those. Our real nature is capacity for everything. And I found that very helpful, because I tend to feel that I should be accepting all the time. And in fact, I find that I get all sorts of feelings and thoughts which aren't accepting ones, but I'm capacity for both. Anything else that could go in?
I like that, because it demonstrates that being is bigger than understanding. As soon as I think I've understood something, I grasp it and hold on to it. But then in the next moment, there's being, and being is even larger than my understanding. I can contain it.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Yes, I think that I mean, if you do what Judy was just take us through again, and you've got one hand open symbolizing acceptance and the other closed symbolizing resistance, and you actually do it, and you look down at your hands and you see your arms and they're attached to your body, but then they disappear into this open space. And so you're looking at both your hands, the one that is resistant and the one that is accepting, from this neutral open space which accepts both. So visually you're looking at resistance and acceptance from this embracing space. And then, as Alice was saying, if you put them together, you see, you're looking at them both from this inclusive space. And no one can be accepting all the time. No one could be resisting all the time. But there's always this rhythm in life between resisting things and then accepting, and then resisting again and accepting. But this space where you are says yes to all of that. Yeah. So then we don't fall into the trap, I suppose, of thinking we've got to be accepting all the time as this kind of spiritual holy thing. You realize as a human being, you go between these polarities, but your true nature is where that perfection of surrender is. And so here we are sharing this basic experience that is non-verbal and neutral. You can't see your head, instead you see the world. And we're sharing our different responses to this. And there's no hierarchy in being aware of this open space. How could there? You can't see nothing more clearly or less clearly or more of it or anything like that. Everyone has the same basic experience, but we all have a different response to it. Even here in this little meeting, our responses are different. But you, the viewer, are observing these different responses from this open space. There.
Let's just make it clear for everybody who might be watching this, and we could all point to the person. What do you think?
Oh, go on. What?
Okay, everybody to the same, to the same. That's where you are. There, your space for all of us.
Single eye, yeah. Something else that sort of connects with the face to no face thing is that in terms of application, I work as a counselor and I do quite a lot of counseling on the phone. And I find what I find myself doing is as I'm talking, I'm listening to my voice, as you can hear my voice now, and I listen to the client's voice on the phone. And I'm aware that both voices are in one silence. Now, I don't talk to the client about this. They haven't come to talk about headlessness. They've come to talk about their boss or their, something, problem. But I am being aware of this one consciousness in which my voice and their voice are happening. And the feeling I had at one point this week was that I'm looking out from that person's consciousness into their world. And I sometimes say when I'm counseling, I'm walking alongside you. In other words, I'm not sitting confronting you, judging. I'm really on your side. And I think that's important. And seeing helps me be on people's side because this space is right where you are. And so now when I'm with these friends here in this meeting, I am when I bring my attention to it, aware that there's one space here, and it's not confronting.
It's the same for me, Richard. It's the same for me. I'm doing a lot of telephone coaching here in Berlin. And it's hard to describe, but it's very, very easy to work with people when both voices are in this emptiness. I see that I'm vanishing in this darkness here in my little box. So, but here in the emptiness, so it doesn't change.
So your voice, Michael, and my voice are happening together in this one consciousness, right?
Yes, yes.
So you've got two voices.
Yes, how nice.
Yeah. And I think, go on, Bill.
This open space here is so hospitable, like a good home should be. It's hospitable for both pleasant and unpleasant events and people. It accepts them all on some level.
Yes. You see, and you saying that, I wouldn't have chosen those words. It's brilliant to hear it coming from a different place, really.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead.
Well, I know we're coming to the end of the hour. I was wondering what you might say about unconsciousness. Because, in other words, I know we've touched on a little bit. We touched on it the hour before, but, it's maybe the shadow or however you termed it. But what might you, because when you say one consciousness, is there one unconsciousness?
I thought you were glad not to have to understand, Alice. Was that the unconscious coming forward? Well, you see,
No, that's good. That's good. That's it. No, you don't have to answer a thing.
Oh, but I want to. I want
okay.
To. Well, just as we've got resistance and surrender, and we recognize that one can't win over the other. You see, I think but we're looking at it from this free space that embraces both. The same with the shadow, the light and the shadow, the conscious, the unconscious, if you like, at the psychological level, that I'm not trying to clear up my shadow. I recognize that Richard has a shadow and a light side, if you like. And there's always going to be that rhythm. So I'm not caught in this delusion that I can somehow purify myself or get rid of my shadow. I accept Richard has that we all do. But here is the freedom from that shadow here. So I'm relieved of that wild goose chase.
Alice, if you look at my box, I don't see anything here in this emptiness.
You're in the shadow.
And I don't see anything in this box. Michael has completely vanished. So this is unconscious, I think.
Wow. Well, we're coming towards the end of this session. If you're watching this and you want to join in, and we're not all dead by the time you watch it, you never know. It might be a historical document, You're welcome to join us in the Zoom meeting. Well, how can we? You're all dead. But the space isn't dead. So anyway, if we're still alive, you're welcome. Contact me through the website. If you've done the experiments, you're interested in sharing your response to this experience, you'd be welcome.
It's always great to have new people because every person's point of view is unique and adds something that nobody else could add. So it's always great to have new people along.
Yeah, brilliant. So any final thoughts? Final thoughts? An obituary. Oh dear, I better stop soon. Any final thoughts? Just great to hang out with you all again and have a bit of an adventure recording this, not knowing what we were going to do. It's kind of fun.
You're not really referring to this as an explosion which obliterates everything, just one's false identity, aren't you, Rich?
Well, a good point, you see, because I think that one of the things that spirituality sometimes seems to promise is that you'll get rid of your problems, you'll get rid of yourself. But headlessness doesn't promise that. It locates yourself. Myself is out there on the screen. I'm free of it here. And that's the freedom.
We've got you.
Yeah, for better and worse, I hope.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. And see
Yes,
you.
thank you.
Yes.
Thanks.
Great to be with you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
All right.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.